This book thinks you're deadly by Corey Tutt and illustrated by Molly Hunt. The title, This Book Thinks You're Deadly, a celebration of black excellence, has this word deadly in it, exclamation mark. And that is a term that Indigenous Australians use to describe someone who's done something awesome. So if you've done something deadly or you're deadly, then that person who says that thinks that you are amazing for some reason. So Corey Tutt has put together this non-fiction book for us. He has previously had a short-list book, I think a couple of years ago, called Deadly Scientists. He has a science background, but now he's gone on to also be an author of books. So he's in literature as well. He himself is pretty deadly. We have some recently acquired books about different aspects of science and the Indigenous kind of history in relation to that science available in our library. This one, of course, is just about a variety of different Indigenous people around today and some that are no longer around today that have done things that are deadly in the fields of sport, music, the arts, journalism. All right, so let's look more at this book, looking on the spine, and you will see the Indigenous flag up the top there that identifies that this book is authored or illustrated by an Indigenous person, or the story or the theme or the topic or the content is about Indigenous people and culture and history. This book thinks you're deadly, a celebration of black excellence, is lovely, colourful, well organised, and the illustrations, of course, they just pop out and they're very engaging. Here's the table of contents, so you can find particular people that you might be interested in knowing more about. It also organises what category they fall under. Perhaps they're a sports person, perhaps they're in the field of science, perhaps they're in the field of music. Now, looking at the contents page, there is someone I'm going to start with reading to you about. That person is called Denzel Baker. And Denzel Baker is also known as, go to page 30, Miss Harris, Baker Boy. Who knows Baker Boy? Baker Boy, of course, we know because of his wonderful dance rap tunes. He is a very talented contemporary Australian musician, Indigenous musician. Up the top of the pages, Corey Tutt reminds us what country this Indigenous person comes from. In this case, Denzel Baker or Baker Boy is Yolngu, and Yolngu people come from Northern Territory, Arnhem Land, and a lot of amazing musicians have come from that region, the Yolngu country. Corey says that when I heard Denzel Baker, aka, or also known as Baker Boy, would be at the Australian of the Year Awards, I was so excited. I was going to get a chance to meet this awesome rapper, dancer, artist, and actor and have a yarn. Right, listen out for that word yarn, because that word could feature as a question in our Trivia Treasure Hunt game. And what does it mean? Listen up for what it means. I couldn't believe how down-to-earth Baker Boy was. We shared a mutual love of fishing and chatted about the best fish to eat and how to cook them. I'll jump down to the last chapter. Denzel has always said he wants to empower and inspire kids in remote communities to follow their dreams and find their passions. For this reason, says Corey, I think it was absolutely fitting he was named an Order of Australia recipient at the young age of 25. I think the biggest takeaway from meeting Denzel and seeing him in the flesh was that it's impossible to be upset or cranky around him. He has an infectious personality, and I think Danzel is destined to achieve icon status within our community as he is someone making great impact on the next generation. All right, so that's just reminded me to flip back to this page at the front. There's Corey Tutt right there. He's from the Shoalhaven, so he's not from the Illawarra. Just below the Illawarra is the Shoalhaven region. So he's close by in location to us. But this is a very important map of Australia. It is the map of Indigenous Australia and the different language groups spoken by our Indigenous Australians, which, as I understand it, once upon a time exceeded more than 600 different languages spoken in Australia by Indigenous Australians before colonisation. Since colonisation, sadly, there are less than 300 Indigenous languages spoken today as an impact of colonisation. So when you do sit with this book, have a good look at this wonderful picture of the different countries across our land that belong to different Indigenous groups and language groups. So we just had a look there at Baker Boy. I did have some bookmarks, but they seem to have fallen out. I'm just flicking through the pages, and perhaps you can recognise some of the deadly Indigenous people that feature in this book. This is Miranda Tapsell. She's a very famous actress. Deborah Mailman, a very, very famous Indigenous Australian actress. Black Douglas, a really famous Australian artist, Indigenous Australian artist, who's also did the illustrations with Corey Tutt for Deadly Scientists, which made it to Book Week shortlist a couple of years back. Lots and lots of very talented people. Hoping to come to someone I want to read a little bit more to you about. There was Dr. Anita Heiss. She's got a number of books in our school library. She's a man for literature, journalism. Kari Thorpe, Tony Armstrong. I don't know if you're familiar with who this deadly Indigenous journalist is. He features a lot on the ABC, which is a channel that I personally choose to watch, and I see him on ABC Breakfast News. He's the sports journalist, so he tells us about who's winning what and what's happening in the world of sports. He is a Barabinya man. Corey says, I was getting ready for rugby training one night when this program on NITV came on. It's called Yokai Footy, an AFL talk show hosted by Tony Armstrong and Bianca Hunt. Little did I know, I'd just witnessed my favourite sports presenter for the first time. I immediately respected him, and it has been incredible watching his career grow to the point that he has become a regular on our screens. He's currently the sports reporter on ABC's News Breakfast program and was awarded the Logie for the most popular new talent in 2022. So, as Corey explains, he also hosted a show about the relationship between dogs and their humans. So if you're a dog lover, perhaps you came across that program. He's also recently had one on the ABC where he interviews people that have acquired something really unique and interesting with an amazing background story that he then reveals to us and lets us hear more about that interesting story. So there's Tony Armstrong. He's in here for journalism. Journalism is, reporting the news, reporting fact, and sharing that information to us. Okay, sorry, I'm flicking through like this. I had some trouble with the sound when I did my recording, so I've actually read this to you twice before and my bookmarks fell through. Perhaps you know this man, Stan Grant, very, very, very famous Indigenous Australian, a very clever man, and has, done years and years, decades of his life devoted to journalism and sharing news and information with us. Looking at the people there, was there someone I wanted to talk about? No, but I do hope you get to sit down with this very engaging book. Look at the beautiful illustrations and the colour, and great little stories that Corey Tutt shares with us about these deadly Indigenous people. This guy, Clarence Slocky, I know he lives somewhere around the Illawarra Escarpment, and he is on Gardening Australia, and he shares lots of his knowledge about, Indigenous gardening and, the history of how Indigenous people have cared for country and their knowledge about, growing things and taking care of things. He is a Bundjalung man, but I know he lives down here somewhere in the Illawarra. Corey says that, one of his favourite shows is Gardening Australia, and that when he met Clarence for the first time, it was in a place called Everleigh in Redfern, which is really close to the heart of Sydney City. And there, Clarence um, founded and led a First Nations landscaping company. So landscaping is someone who comes and designs your whole garden. It's not just gardening, it's the design of it as well. He says, we were standing on a rooftop garden and Clarence said, everything in this garden has a purpose for our people. We spent some time yarning. What does that word mean? Yarning. We spent some time yarning about our shared love of animals, plants, and traditional knowledge systems. At the same time, he introduced me to a little blue-tongued lizard that he rescued, which now resides in gardens around South Everleigh. That little lizard is living its best life among the million-dollar real estate. Clarence has opened the door for everyday garden lovers to have a great appreciation for the first gardeners and plant scientists who are Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, while also empowering the next generation to believe they can contribute to this space. So Clarence Slocky is a very important Indigenous gardener that shares his knowledge for us all to be able to use in our everyday garden practices. Some amazing scientists. This lady here, her name is Michaela Jade, and she's an astrophysicist. Crystal de Napoli is also an astrophysicist, and in the game of STEM, Indigenous STEM. This guy, Uncle Victor Stephenson, we've actually, I think this year with stage 2, we had a look at some work that he had been doing in relation to, the huge out of control bushfires that we've had in recent years in Australia, and adopting Indigenous ways of caring for country so that, we can do cool burning and not let our land in Australia get to the point of being unmanageable and it's suffering terribly in a big bushfire. So he is deadly for that. That is definite. I'm going to flick now to sport. Look at all of the people that feature in this section. You would know Kathy Freeman, Ash Barty. You could have a read about Ash. Adam Goods. Really deadly Indigenous sports people. Perhaps you're interested in sport. So you could go to this section. There's Greg Inglis. I love that image of him there where he is showing that he is like a lizard. It's like he has the power of the lizard that makes him such an incredible footy player. There's Ash Barty, and we have a number of her books in the middle fiction section where she shares stories about, being a tennis pro. Ash Barty, AO, is a proud Ngadigal woman in Gadigal who grew up in the Queensland town of Ipswich. She's an incredibly talented athlete, says Corey. Though I haven't had the chance to meet Ash Barty, we do have a link thanks to the Australian of the Year Awards, of which Ash was the recipient for Queensland in 2020. And as it turns out, before she got into tennis, she had a cricket career. All right, think about that when it comes to our trivia game. Remember that other part of her sports career. He writes here at the end, because she's such a kind and humble person. Whether you hold a racket or not, Ash Barty is someone we can all look up to and learn from. I hope we see more Ash Bartys, says Corey, coming out of communities in years to come, dominating world tennis. Ash makes every person in this country proud, and she certainly reached the top of her game winning the Australian Open, didn't she? Lastly, I want to turn to this guy. His name is Morris Longbottom, and the reason for that is because he's a Darawal man, and we can proudly, talk about him and acknowledge him because our school is on Darawal land. Our school is on the land of the Wadi Wadi people of the Darawal Nation, and we can acknowledge many wonderful things about the traditional custodians of the Darawal country. All around us is such incredible natural beauty and wonder, and they have looked after um, the Darawal country so well for decades and decades. Well, what am I saying? Decades, thousands of decades of years, 65,000 years or so. All right, so this guy Morris Longbottom, Darawal man, is deadly because he's an awesome World Rugby Sevens player. All right. Being one of only a few blackfellas who play rugby union in sevens, Morris has risen to worldwide popularity. So he's actually played World Cup rugby for Australia, and he is actually a Darawal man. All right. Let's just read the synopsis there, the blurb. This book, Thinks You're Deadly, is an inspirational, illustrated compendium that celebrates the diversity and success of First Nations people. You'll find profiles of more than 70 blackfellas who are doing great things across the arts, education, sport, and science. Author Corey Tutt brings each of their personalities to life through his personal storytelling, and together with Molly Hunt's deadly illustrations, this book aims to inspire future generations to create change. All right, do enjoy. This book Thinks You're Deadly.